Great.
We will say hello. I think what's so fascinating is yesterday we had the conversation, and you and I said it, and Mika said everybody is talking about Joe Biden's too old to run. It's that conversation right there. Joe Biden's too old. And then the question turns to, well, who could do the job better than him? Everybody looks around at each other. And then the next question is, who could beat Trump? Everybody looks at their, shoes, and nobody.
It's true.
And that's the thing. It's so interesting. David Ignatius wrote that column yesterday, and so everybody, stop. Everybody's like, this is horrible, it's horrible. It's what they were saying, but it's almost like that article, I personally think, did Joe Biden a favor. And I think that because it finally got it out there. Okay, this is what everybody's talking about. Okay, you want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Who you got? Who do you have to replace him? And there was a deafening silence yesterday. You heard people talking about the article in Washington. It was like a political bomb that went off. But after the bomb went off and, things got quiet, you started hearing the birds chirping and everything and people talking, and they all came back to the same conclusion. If not Biden, who? Good lower third, by the way, guys. And the fact is, I could name a lot of Democrats. I'm not going to. There's no need for me to poke at anybody right now. But Joe Biden has the best shot of beating Donald Trump. And I know this doesn't really matter in 2023 to most people. Objectively, Joe Biden's done a damn good job.
Exactly. So why are we asking this question? Why are we asking this question?
At his foreign leadership, if you look at the historic expansion of NATO, if you look at how he has deftly walked through the possibility of a decision between allowing Russia to invade a country in the middle of Europe and rewrite the history books and encourage China to invade Taiwan next, or World War III, he's deftly walked through all of that. As Steve Ratner has asked, why do Americans think the economy is getting worse when we have record low unemployment? Inflation has gone down greatly. Economists have gone over the past year and a half from saying we're going to have a recession to saying, no, wow, looks like we're going to stick that soft landing after all. And 3 out of 4 Americans say that they are doing better economically than they were a year ago. Willie, again, we could talk about his achievements. We could talk about the fact there's been more bipartisan legislation passed over the last year or so than at any time this century. Any time this century. And yet people are still like, yeah, but he fell off his bike and he gets real tired. Well, I'm sure Warren Buffett gets real tired. I'd like to have Warren Buffett's mind right now for investing.
Yeah, and by the way, David Ignatius made that exact case before he said that Joe Biden should step aside. He lauded his domestic achievements. He talked about the role he's played on the world stage, bringing NATO together, adding members to NATO, standing strong against Vladimir Putin, saying he's done a great job, but it's time to step aside. And as I read through David's column a couple of nights ago, I was waiting to the end for the answer to the question of, if not Biden, who? And there wasn't an answer at the end of that. And so if you look at polling where even Democrats, 7 out of 10 of them say he's too old. The next question is, well, are you going to vote for him? And they said, well, of course I'm going to vote for him. He's going to run against Donald Trump. Right. So we can say, okay, he's too old. By the way, when he ran last time, when he was inaugurated, he was 78. He wasn't, JFK in 1960. So he won, and that's the case you're going to hear from the White House. Here's our record of achievements. I'm the guy who beat Donald Trump. I'm the guy who kicked Donald Trump out of the White House. And they believe they can do it again. Let's bring in our table of the twisted minds at Morning Joe. Mike Barnichel's still with us. Also joining the conversation, president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation. The Reverend Al Sharpton, not one of the twisted minds, nor is Molly Jong Fast, special correspondent Vanity Fair, host of the Fast Politics podcast. I was thinking really more of the host of the podcast, on brand with Donnie Deutsch.
Yes.
Donnie Deutsch.
So, he is.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He knows it. That's why he's nodding here.
Part of my brand.
Yeah. So what do you make of this conversation that David Ignatius, it's been happening in private, you know it, we all know it, that he kind of thrust that into the open?
I think Joe brings up a good point in that it kind of blew it up and it's out there now. And look, the Biden administration has one path, and we've talked about it a lot on the show, is just quiet competence, that he's getting the job done. And also the alternative. I mean, it's just very simple. If not Biden, who? Trump? You going to vote for Trump? I mean, I get into this discussion, and we all have the same discussion, right? Biden's too old. Going to vote for Trump? Well, no, I'm not going to vote for Trump. So, and I actually think that Biden should kind of, Ronald Reagan had that famous joke when he was debating, and he said, I'm not going to use your inexperience against you. I think Biden should kind of bring it up a little bit, have some fun with it. I think walk right into it and own it and just say, yes, I am going to be 82 years old, and I bring 60 years of experience to the table, and I'm going to do what I did in the first term. I'm going to do exactly what I did in the second term, and just own it, and just walk right into it.
And you know, the guy works long hours. You had a Fox News correspondent the other morning talking about how Joe Biden worked through the night in Hanoi. How many times, seriously, over 4 years, did you hear anyone say Donald Trump did that? You couldn't keep him focused. You couldn't get him, Gary Cohn, others became frustrated because they couldn't get him to read a single sheet of paper. They had to tell stories to him. Joe Biden stays live. I've talked to foreign leaders
who went... woman, cat, dog, TV.
I talked to foreign leaders who went into meetings with Joe Biden after hearing everything that they've heard on TV, and they were shocked that not only was Biden locked in the other time, but Biden was always a step ahead of them in negotiations on every single issue. Every single issue. Maybe he gets tired, doesn't perform well on TV in certain times. So what? A lot of our very successful presidents have done the same thing. But here's a clip from Fox News. Peter Doocy talking about just how hard it is to keep up with Joe Biden. The guy works a very long schedule.
We expect a short statement off the top just about how the G20 went in India and how his meetings went here with the Communist Party in Vietnam. And then as many questions as he wants to take. He has been basically working all through the night, the equivalent of an all-nighter Eastern time. So he's probably pretty tired, pretty jet-lagged, but he should take at least a handful.
There's Peter Doocy, and I'm sure some people at Fox weren't happy that he inadvertently gave President Biden credit for pulling an all-nighter during his trip to Vietnam. And Mike Barnicle, this is after India. This is again the very people who are criticizing Joe Biden for being out of it or being tired or being too old. They're comparing him to what? Donald Trump, a guy who hated going on foreign trips. Guy who they couldn't get to go outside in the rain, a guy who got bored and would regularly insult our closest allies. They're comparing Joe Biden to that. I mean, you look at where America stands globally right now compared to where we were, and again, it's an alternate reality to say anything but Joe Biden has been extraordinarily successful on the international stage. And yet I hear people saying that. I hear people writing that. And I read it in op-ed pages, despite where we are in Europe, despite how strong NATO is, despite the pivot to Asia that has put us in the strongest military position in Asia and around China as we've been in over 20 years.
Well, you know, Joe, first of all, the President of the United States is well aware of how old he is. He knows when his birthday is. He knows how he feels. He'll be pretty honest about it. He will tell you when you get to be the age of 65 or 70, certainly 80, you get out of bed in the morning in 3 parts. You know, you swing your legs out, then you try to get your hips out, and it happens. It happens growing up and growing old. But to your larger point about Joe Biden doing his job, he certainly does do it and has done it since he was sworn in as president. Now, there's going to be a lot of talk and a lot of concern and a lot of legitimate worry about his age as he proceeds into a campaign year. But around the world in 4 or 5 days, which he just did, from India to Hanoi to Alaska and then back to Washington. Here's what he did. He continued to build a fence to protect democracy. That fence extends from Great Britain down across, encompassing all of the NATO countries. It swings through northern Africa and through beneath Saudi Arabia and the Adriatic Sea and off into India and up and around Vietnam and China and Japan and Korea, South Korea. He's done all of that. He's kept the NATO allies together. He's fashioned an agreement with the Vietnamese that has been talked about since about 1975. He got it done to further enhance the security of the United States and the South Pacific. He's done a whole lot that goes unreported, not totally unreported, but large numbers of people in this country are unaware of the job that President Biden has done. Now, whose fault is that? I don't know. That's beyond my pay grade to figure that out. But he's been on the job, and he does the job every single day at the age of 80, nearly 81.